All right. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining in to our live session here on YouTube. As always, we're going to go ahead and start off with covering the changes in our latest update. We've just released 8.013 this past week, and it does have quite a bit of bug fixes that we can go ahead and cover. If we do have some time, we may also go into some of the changes that we're looking to release with the bigger 8.5 update that's coming down the line. So we'll see if we have time for that. But of course, we want to tackle any questions that you guys have. So if you're joining us today, feel free to go ahead and start submitting those questions through the live chat. We'll do our best to get through all the questions submitted. We'll also check in to see if we have any that have come through the blog and may also cover some topics that are generally coming in through the support channel. All right, so let's go ahead and jump straight into it. As always, I do like to highlight the different help channels that we have available for all of our users, starting off with our Help Center, which is at help.deconetwork.com. This is where you can have access to all of our written help articles. Down at the bottom of this page is where you also have our other resources, including a link to our community forums, our feature ideas where you can submit new feature requests or improvement requests, a link to our blog where you can stay updated with the latest news as far as either updates or things that are happening in the DecoNetwork universe. And lastly, this is also where we get access to our release notes. So let's go ahead and jump into release notes. All right, and we see here the release notes for 8.013 are up, and let's run through these. So yeah, this update here, it mostly covers bug fixes. There are maybe one or two improvements or new features, but for the most part, it is a bug fix release. As we get closer and closer to the bigger 8.5 update, a lot of the feature improvements and new features are actually going into 8.5 rather than these smaller monthly releases. Okay, but let's run through these. First one we have here at the top is a new option that allows unpaid orders to appear in the artwork approval screen. So this is based directly off user feedback. We've had users requesting the ability to see artwork jobs for orders that they've not yet received payment for. And this is useful in the case where, the feedback that we received is, we like to kind of have the artwork team go ahead and start with the artwork and then have the customer approve it. And based on that approval, we move forward with the order or not. And, it does in some cases seem a little bit backwards that you would start work without payment, but that's the feedback that we received as far as the way the industry works, and so we've gone ahead and definitely added that option in. So let's check into where you can enable this. All right, so as far as where we enable it, we're going to go into the admin section of our system. We're going to click into settings. And from the settings section, we'll have the ability to jump into production and order settings. And from there, we're going to look into Business Hub order display. I'm sorry, it's production and order pending time. So it's on this screen here. And let's see, I'm not seeing the option here. Okay, it's actually this third one here, quote order and invoice settings. So now here at the bottom, you have this artwork approval settings section where you can allow quotes and orders not yet paid to have artwork appear in artwork approval. So let's go ahead and turn that on. Let's save that off. And we'll go ahead and jump into Business Hub now. And we'll see how that affects the behavior of our Business Hub. All right, so let's see if we can go ahead and create an order that might require an artwork job. So let's do add new order. We'll go ahead and select a customer record here. And we'll add a product. We'll quickly open this up into the online designer and upload a design for embroidery. Okay, so the system obviously recognizes that this is a non-digitized image, and I'm adding it for embroidery, so it knows that this needs a digitizing job or an artwork job associated with it. So let's go ahead and close that out. Let's save the order here. Okay, so if we look at the production tab for this newly created order, we see that it's currently on hold, right? There's a payment requirement of $68.97 that would normally be required for this order to go into the purchasing step, the artwork step, the production step, so on and so forth. Now with this new option that we've added, if I go into the artwork approval screen, you'll see that I have this artwork job showing up here. So this is what that enables, is for your artwork team to start seeing those artwork jobs prior to orders having been paid. And it's up to the, on a business by business basis, how you might operate. And so that's why we've made it an option and not a default. So you do have to go in and turn it on if that's how you want your business hub to operate. Okay, but overall, great improvement for the businesses that do wish to operate in that way. All right, the next option down, it's one that you probably won't notice from day to day, but it definitely does have a benefit, and that's the new functionality that any emails that are sent from within the DecoNetwork system, whether it's an email from your system to your customer, or it's a notification that you're receiving, let's say from Business Hub regarding an order change or an order having been produced or anything like that, all emails coming from the DecoNetwork system now have TLS encryption in transit. So obviously your email client may already have had encryption on the client side if you're using any major provider like Google or Outlook or anything like that. And DecoNetwork has encryption on our server end, but it's that in transit part when the email is going from our server to, let's say, your receiving server, where that was missing the encryption. So we've now enabled that, and that makes sure that all the way that email is encrypted and your communication is secure. Okay, so that's definitely a great benefit in terms of security. Okay, let's see, we've got a few improvements listed here. One related to product import. So if you're doing a lot of product import using the CSV format, we've covered this. I think we actually covered it on the very first live session that we did here on YouTube as far as how to do a CSV import. And part of the issue that we were hearing from our customers is when you were running one of these product imports, the pricing mode that a newly imported product is configured to have was always the single price mode. And that doesn't really match up to how you may have configured the price on the spreadsheet. So if you look at our required files for importing products help document, you'll notice down at the bottom we have a section for pricing. And the way this article describes it, you can use the vendor retail column to specify pricing in either single price or white, light, and dark pricing, or you can use the piece price column to specify your pricing as SKU level pricing. And so what was happening was, even if you were using piece price, again, those newly imported products were actually being set to use the single price mode. So that wasn't quite matching up, and that's what we've improved with that change. Okay, so that's definitely going to help people doing product import. Any products that are imported as part of a spreadsheet that uses piece pricing will now be automatically set to SKU pricing mode. So it's less work for you to do after the fact for those newly imported products. Okay, this next one is a bit of a, I guess we'll call it a quality update. For this, we'll jump into the website page editor. So it's possible in the website page editor to switch back and forth between the 4 available themes. However, there's a checkbox in the change theme pop-up that prompts you whether or not you want to reset the pages of your website as you're changing the theme. And previously, before this latest update, that checkbox was enabled by default, and it led to some issues with customers that inadvertently reset their entire website while trying to change the theme. And so it's a simple change that we've made to simply default that option to off, so that now you can go ahead and switch between these themes without thinking about it, knowing that your content, the widgets that you've set up on each page, all of the pages that you've created, so on and so forth, all of that will be intact. The only thing that will change is the theme that you have selected. I guess along these lines, some feedback that I can give is, depending on how much change you've made through the style editor, even though you change a theme, you might not actually end up seeing much of a difference. If you've changed a lot of the colors and things like that, you may not see that much of a difference from theme to theme, because a lot of that does get kind of overridden by the styles that you set in the style editor, right? So here you can see it's preserved all of my widgets. So these are typically the kind of the default widgets that you see with the fashion theme, but now they are here with the new theme that we've selected. So it's a nice option to have that off. And again, it's more of kind of like it's going to allow customers to change themes without really thinking about it. So it's a really great benefit. And in the event that you do want to start fresh with a theme, it's as simple as turning on that box, pressing OK, and at this point, once I hit OK, it's actually going to reset. We'll see here I'm going to have all new widgets for this newly selected theme, right? So I've removed what I had previously, and now I have the new widgets that come with the theme I've just selected. Again, here you see an example of some of the overrides that have been set through the style editor, right? So I've changed the background color of my section here at the top. I've changed the font, and so that hasn't quite carried through from the theme. So something to keep in mind. All right, let's jump down to the next improvement. So the size of the input fields for selecting a product size have been increased or made in such a way that they won't be cropped. Okay, so let's take a look at that. This, I believe, applies in the online design tool. So before we move any further, let me just switch back to the fashion theme here. Okay, let me go ahead and publish this change. All right, let's go ahead and view the website now and take a look at that last improvement in the design tool. All right, so here in the design tool, if you click into, let's see, and I actually need to make another change here in my admin. So let me go back. I need to go into products, blank product display, and I need to change my multiple size display to show all available sizes. So right now it's showing in this kind of add another size layout, and I've switched it to show all sizes, and we'll see what the difference is here. So let's refresh the design tool. Okay, so the difference is now when I click select size, it opens up this pop-up. And what was happening is if your size name is long, like let's say maybe the size name was youth large or something like that, right? That took quite a bit more space. It was getting cropped, so it might say youth dot dot dot, and it was kind of getting cropped off that way. And so now we've made it so that whatever the size name is, it will always show that complete size name, and it's going to be nice and simple for your customer to know what size they're setting quantity against without seeing that ellipsis with any cropping. Okay, so that's the last improvement in this latest update. The rest are bug fixes. So for these, we'll just quickly go over them. So there was a bug with PDF colors changing when you uploaded a PDF format design into the design tool, and that has now been fixed. This other one, this one's actually pretty big one. Was raised multiple times by different customers, and so it's nice to have this one fixed. This one also applies inside of the design tool. So let me just, it relates to this option here, product set to default size. When this is set to yes, your default size for a product will populate with quantity 1 always. And so if you set this to no, what we've always done is through the product detail page. That's when you go into the create page and you select a product. So let me click into my create page here on the site, and let's click this Gildan 5000. So on this page, we've always reflected that, right? When you have products set to default size no, all of these fields will show a quantity of 0. The issue was once you hit start designing, that setting did not carry over. So in the designer, your default size continued to populate with quantity 1, and that's the issue that we've now resolved. Again, this is going to be a big benefit. What customers are trying to avoid by setting up their system in this way is they're trying to avoid their consumer ordering the wrong size, right? If you're a consumer, maybe you're just thinking, I'll pick a shirt, I pick the color, I add my design, and you forget about the size, right? It can be easy to kind of forget about that. And so with this new option, or rather the fix for this old option, it's now pretty impossible for you to order the wrong size. So I could add my design here. And when I go to add to cart, the system will let me know you have to select your product size first, and it'll highlight that for you so you can go in, click to select that size, and enter in your quantity. All right, so very nice improvement there. Next improvement down the line, or rather fix, is related to extra options. They were not displaying in the production overview. So we've now made sure that whatever extra options are set against a product, so these are like custom fields, those do now display in the overview section. All right, the next fix relates to the design on product page. This is the page that you see when you go through the designs page. You select a design from your system, and then you select a product that you want to apply that design to. So with this flow, you end up on this page here. This is the design on product page. And the issue that we fixed here is we were not displaying volume discounts or quantity breaks that might be assigned to a blank product in this section. So if a blank product has those defined on it, there will be an additional discounts table that shows here on the right hand side. We've now made sure to display it on this page just like we do on if you were reviewing a blank product or a decorated product. So it's good to have that consistent all the way throughout those different types of pages, which are very similar but for different use cases. Okay, let's see, we're almost done here. So this next fix relates to production files for embroidery. We recently upgraded to the Wilcom E4 engine, and as part of that upgrade, unfortunately, we lost a setting which made sure that your production file download for embroidery contained the correct colorway for a design that, let's say through the design tool, contained multiple colorways. Right, so I think actually that one that I chose might have multiple colorways. Let's double check. Yeah, so this one here has a red version and then a black version. And so either you or your consumer, depending on who's ordering, can go ahead and select from those multiple colorways. The issue that we were having is, let's say I chose the black one. That selected colorway was not reflected in the production file. So maybe the production file showed the red one instead of the black one that I chose. So that's an important fix that we've made to make sure that the production file matches exactly what your customer or you chose in the design tool. All right, these last two are smaller ones. So the next one down relates to custom product fields. Custom product fields that were completely removed, deleted from your system, may still have shown on your product pages. This was essentially a caching issue. Deleting one of those custom fields should have cleared the product page cache so that the system was aware of that product field, of that custom field no longer being active, and it should have removed it from displaying on your site. And that was missing. So we've rectified that in. As you delete a custom field, we now make sure to clear that product page cache. All right, and the last one relates to the EU cookie policy notice that you can enable if you're in an EU country. You can enable that option. The issue was once you've enabled it for a store, you actually couldn't disable it. And so it wasn't an issue for most people. Most people that enable it, they're enabling it because they actually require that to be displayed. In this case, it was reported by a user who mistakenly enabled that option. And so we've made sure that that disabling it now works just as you would expect it. And so now you can toggle it just as you might need to. Okay, so that covers pretty much the major changes in 8.013. There are a few more changes not listed here. In total, 59 tasks completed with this update. And again, some good improvements overall. Most of these are fixes relating to Business Hub, but also I think the biggest improvement probably is this one related to artwork approvals. And it does seem like a lot of businesses operate similarly, where they may want the artwork team to go ahead and start work prior to receiving payment for the entire order. All right, so yeah, we'll go ahead and jump into maybe some tutorials, some questions. If you guys have any questions, feel free to pop those into the live chat. We'll go ahead and cover those as they come in. I did have one topic that I want to cover. We've kind of covered it before lightly, but I think it could use a bit more of attention. And that is the ability to create templates within the DecoNetwork template builder. Even since we covered it in the last live session that where we focused on templates, we have made some improvements to that template builder that I think are worth noting. And if possible, I think do have time for it. I would like to go over a specific kind of use case in the template builder. So I'm going to try and replicate kind of a very specific type of template, and and we'll just kind of walk through that process. So give me a second here while I gather some assets to kind of focus on this, and then we'll jump straight into it. All right, so let's jump into it. To start here in the template builder, I'm going to go into stock designs. From the top right, I'm going to choose add design, create template. That's going to pull up the DecoNetwork template builder. I can go ahead and give my new template a name. In this case, I'm going to call it soccer. Let's call it strikers template. Okay, and I'm just going to go ahead and add a couple assets that I found. Actually, before we do that, so the first thing you would want to do if you're creating a new template is to go ahead and define the template size. So essentially you're setting up your canvas size. All right, so that's over here on the right hand side under template settings. You have the ability to set your dimensions. You can determine that in either inches or millimeters, depending on what you prefer. So let's go with inches for now. And in this case, I'm looking for a banner, right? I'm going to be creating a banner for a sports team, um, mainly for, let's say, like a little league type of sporting event. You might use this template that can be reused. The team name might be able to be swapped out. The player names might be able to be swapped out. And so that's kind of the use case that we're going after. All right, so we're going to do a 36-inch wide by 24-inch tall sign. So we'll set up those dimensions. All right, let's go ahead and zoom out here to make sure we can see our entire canvas. Okay, that looks pretty good. All right, so let's go ahead and drop in those assets. All right, so we'll choose add graphic. In the template builder, you can upload either SVG format, which is going to be vector, or if you want to do raster, you can do either JPEG or PNG. So I'm going to prefer, in the case of my assets here, to use the SVG format for now. So I've brought in a soccer ball graphic that I found, as well as kind of a clip art player graphic. All right, so we'll use both of these. Let's see, let me see if I can find a different soccer ball. This one seems a bit off here. All right, so let's remove that. You can remove layers by looking over here on the left-hand side layers panel. You can click on a layer to select it. There's a trash can icon right next to it that will allow you to remove it. There's also an eye icon that will allow you to toggle that layer's visibility. So let's press Add Design again, select File to upload, and let's see that new one that I just added. I think it's this one here. There we go. Okay, so we'll go with that one. Here in the template builder, you can lock the aspect ratio of a design so that it doesn't get warped while you're scaling like this by clicking the lock icon in the size section. So we'll enable that lock, and now I can go ahead and scale it and preserve that graphics aspect ratio. I'll do that for my player as well. Okay, so a template is essentially a combination of graphical assets and editable text elements. Okay, so let's drop in a line of text here, which is going to be kind of our placeholder for the team name. To lock the aspect ratio of text, you're actually going to find that under the container section down here at the bottom. So text works a little bit differently than a design. So we'll go into the container and we'll lock that aspect ratio as well. And that's going to allow me to scale that nicely. All right, I'm going to go ahead and center align this text. And I'm going to type in our placeholder team name. So we'll call these the SoCal Strikers. Okay, you can go ahead and change fonts over here on the right-hand side by clicking the font field and pick from all the same fonts that are available in the design tool. I think I'm going to go ahead and stick with the default one for now. The template builder does have snap guides that allow you to see if you're center aligned either horizontally or vertically. So watch out for those snap guides that will display when you get right in that spot. So here we can see I have my vertical center snap guide to help me out. Okay, so I'm going to put that team name up at the top. I'm going to put my player kind of dead center. Down at the bottom, I'm going to add an additional couple lines of text. So let's call this, let's see, you can also increase the font size by using the slider here on the right hand side. In this case, I'm going to lock the size and scale that up manually. Okay, and this is going to be my coach name. Okay, so Coach Marquez in this case. Again, I'm going to go ahead and center align that text. And I might come down on the font size a bit. That looks pretty good there. All right. And at this point, we're just going to start adding in some of these graphical assets to do our player names. So I'll add a few here. I'm going to choose that same graphic. Let me see if it shows up here actually in my graphic library. Not yet, so let's choose that again here. All right, so I've got a few copies of these. I'm going to go ahead and make sure to lock the aspect ratio on all of them. We're going to start with 4, but you can imagine, if you want to do 6 of these, 10 of these, depending on, your typical team, what you might see, or in this case, I'm trying to do it because of time. But you should get the idea from this example. So we'll put 4 of those graphics right on there. And then on top of those, we're going to overlay a line of text, which is going to be for the player name. So again, I'm going to lock the aspect ratio of that text field, increase it slightly, center align that text. I'm going to change the color of the text to white. And we're going to give that text an outline to make sure that as we place it over that graphic, it's nice and visible. Okay, and then we can just go ahead and input some example player names. So we'll do Kenny. Okay, so you can see this template's coming along nicely here. And you can definitely see how you might use this for your own business. It doesn't have to be this type of a template. This is just kind of one example. But we have customers using templates for, all different kinds of purposes. All different types of products, different decoration methods, sublimation, screen printing, direct to garment. So definitely you can go ahead and customize it for your needs. Okay, and we'll go ahead and add our last line of text here, center align that, lock our aspect ratio, and scale that up. All right, so that looks pretty good to me. We might go in and add a backdrop there. Let me see if I can find one quickly here, just to use as an example. So I'll go ahead and lock my aspect ratio and scale that backdrop nice and large. And then the nice thing here in the layers panel, you can just click and drag to move that up or down in your list. So I'll move that all the way to the background. And I'm all set. So I can go ahead and save that template. I can go ahead and categorize it. I'll put it in my test category. And I'm ready to start using that on decorated products or just make it available for my customers to use. All right, so definitely check out the template builder. It's a nice alternative to sourcing your own templates. You have the template builder there as a tool for you to use and create. So definitely check it out and make the best use of it. All right, we've got a couple questions coming through the chat here. Let's go ahead and cover those. So Sung Wan is asking about customer fields. Specifically regarding the country field for either billing or shipping address, he's asking if it can be disabled. In his case, he's only selling in USA, and so he doesn't want to have to worry about setting a country field. while Sungwon, while you cannot disable the country field, you can make it a lot easier for yourself by only listing USA as the only available country. So the available countries are determined by which countries you can ship to. So it's based on your shipping methods. For example, here in my system, I have only domestic shipping methods, meaning I can only ship within the US. And based on the fact that I can only ship within the US, the country field for my site only displays US or United States as the only available country. So it'll automatically default to it. Whereas if I had an additional shipping method here, which was set to international, right, so if I go into shipping locations and I say international shipping, delivers to all countries, and save, at this point, my country field is now going to show all countries. So it's directly tied to which countries you can ship to. All right, so you do have some control over that. If you are using live shipping methods, I think it gets a little bit trickier because those are available kind of globally. But I believe the live shipping methods allow you to choose between which shipping methods you want to add, either domestic or international. So you may consider, again, toggling off the ones that are for international. Okay, so hopefully that helps out. Second question from Seungwon is related to sales tax. He's asking how to generate a tax report, a generator or collected sales tax report. Okay, so this is the screen here just to kind of finish up with the shipping or the country address question. This is the live shipping method screen. And you can see here for each of the methods, you can enable a set of international methods and a set of domestic methods. Okay, so we'll go ahead and cover the next question now regarding sales tax. So for that, let's jump into current taxes. All right, and so Seungwon is asking about a report. Now, I guess the report, the best report that we have for collected sales tax would be probably the export order report. So let's take a look at that. For that, we're going to jump into the report section. And I see Wizard Printers joining us in on the chat. Hey, Wizard Printers. Also with us today, we have Techman, Ken Linderman joining us in the chat, and Thierry. So thanks guys for joining in and chiming in on the chat. Again, if you guys have any questions as we finish up here, feel free to get those in and see if we can cover those for you guys. Okay, so here in the report section, we're going to click into export orders. The export orders report is quite extensible, quite flexible, configurable. So if you come into export orders, you'll want to go into settings over here on the top right corner. This allows you to determine at which state you want to start including orders, right when they're ordered, if you want to wait till they're invoiced, or if you want to go ahead and wait till they're shipped. So you can determine at which point an order is included in this report. You can also determine what type of additional fees you want to include in the report, such as shipping fees, rush order fees, coupons, or total adjustments. And lastly here, you can define which columns you want included in each version of this report. So there's two versions of the report. There's a summary version and a line item version. So order summary is 1 row per order. Line item can be multiple rows per order depending on how many line items that order had. So if it was a 20 line item order, you're going to get 20 rows in that report for that specific order. So this exports as a CSV file. which you can go ahead and open into your spreadsheet application, whether that's Excel or Google Sheets, whatever the case. You can go ahead and open up that CSV file and work with the data there. So as far as which columns you might want to include if you're trying to do a report related to sales tax, I would assume you would be using the summary column, right? For sales tax purpose, you don't necessarily need information about every single product. And so the order summary report does have a column for tax total. It also has a column for tax exempt if you want to determine whether that order based on the customer was tax exempt. Down at the bottom of the columns list, you also have the ability to include a separate column for each tax. So if you have, let's say, 3 different taxes that you charge, and you want to know the value of each of those separate taxes rather than the total, you can go ahead and enable that tax names column to get that additional detail. Okay, so once you've configured which columns you want included in this report, you'll go back to Export Orders. This time you'll click the first option here, CSV Format, and this is going to allow you to then create export. Over here on the top right corner, Actions, we'll click Create Export, and it's going to give us an option to either export new orders, and new orders would be anything since you last ran an export. So in this case, I've never run a new order report, so it would be everything since I created my system. The alternative is to export orders between a date range, which we do see is the more commonly used option, right? You're usually trying to find out, let's say, tax information for the last calendar year or the last sales year. So you can go ahead and select that date range. So in my case, I might say June 2018, June 1st, 2018 to June 1st, 2019. Right, I can go ahead and select Order Summary and then hit Save. The system will go through, tally up that information, generate a report for you, and it'll automatically download to your system as a CSV file that you can open up into your spreadsheet application. All right, so once again, hopefully that helps out, Sungwon. Thanks for asking those questions, both great questions that I'm sure other users will also benefit from. All right, so we're almost out of time here. I'm going to see if I have some small things that we can cover here with the time that we have left. I don't think we're going to have time today to jump into some of the new features of 8.5, so we'll save that for a future session. So definitely come back and continue to join with us for these now monthly sessions that we're running. Okay, let's see here. So one that we can, I think we have time to cover. So we've had, I guess, a series of questions related to purchase ordering. And so I would like to kind of take some time to maybe do a bit of a refresher or education on how the purchase ordering feature works and maybe a bit of kind of best practice when using the built-in purchase order feature. So let me launch up Business Hub. The first thing that we'll cover is, especially for our older users, you may have this option disabled. I have run into that quite a bit. So if you want to enable purchase ordering, you're going to go into your admin section settings. From there, you'll choose purchase order settings. And it's under workflow settings that you set whether you want to use purchase ordering or not. So what you want to enable is by default, all products go to purchase ordering. That's what's going to enable the purchase ordering feature for your system. The second option here, orders must complete the purchase order process before flowing through production. That's more of an optional. If you have this on, it means you need to create the PO and receive the PO before the orders start displaying in the awaiting production screen. If you disable this, they'll go ahead and show even if you haven't yet ordered and received the items. But most people, I think, prefer to have that on. Okay, so let's take again a look at Business Hub here. So we're going to start from the top. We're going to start this as an order. So I'm going to go into my orders section, choose Add New Order, select the customer record here, and add a product. And let's add a couple products here. Okay, so both of these are from SNS Activewear. I'll go ahead and select color, and we'll set a few different sizes so we can get a variety of SKUs in our purchase order. Okay, and we're just going to add some embroidery text. All right, so that's good enough. Let's go ahead and for this order, I'm going to go ahead and set the terms to net 30 so that I don't have to log a payment against the order. And that's going to allow it to move straight into the purchase ordering process. I guess while we're editing this order, first thing to cover is if you press the configure icon to the right of each line item, you can individually set whether this line item requires a purchase order or not. So you can go ahead and toggle that. I'm going to leave both of mine to go ahead and require a purchase order. The other thing to mention at this point is if any of these items had any inventory amounts configured, the system would first pull from on-hand inventory before going to the purchase order step. Right, so in this case I don't, so they're both going to go straight into purchase order. So let's save that order. Okay, and now that this is saved, you can see it's awaiting a purchase order. As far as raising a purchase order, you can do it individually on an order by order basis by viewing the order and clicking Raise Purchase Order here on the right hand side. Alternatively, you can go into the purchase order screen, select a supplier, and this will create a consolidated purchase order for that supplier for all orders that have pending items. So let's choose that now. In this case, it's still just that one order. I don't have any other pending orders, but you could see if I took, let's say, 10 orders that day and all those 10 orders included items from SNS, it might be easier to do one consolidated PO. There is one additional way that you can raise purchase orders, which is useful if you're trying to, let's say, raise purchase orders by web store. That's an often used case. You can do that through the overview screen. So if you're in the overview screen, one of the columns that you can turn on is the store column, and that allows you to filter by a specific store. Once you've filtered by a specific store, what you're able to do is select all the orders that are on your screen, and you have the Raise Purchase Order button there for the selected orders. Okay, so there's a few ways you can do. You can raise a purchase order depending on your use case, depending on what you're trying to accomplish. You know, each of those ways is going to have a benefit. For now, I'm going to go ahead and just do the consolidated PO. So I'll choose SNS Activewear, and I'll create that purchase order. Okay, it's going to go ahead and populate with those items from the order that I have. What I'm able to do to gain some insight into what's being ordered for what reason, I can click the down arrow next to each item to expand out and see which orders those items are being allocated to, or even if items are being allocated to stock. Okay, so I can see here all of this is for that same order that I just created. But it's a nice option to be able to see that information. Okay, so let's go ahead and save this purchase order. All right, one thing to keep in mind, we do get it pretty frequently that at the time that you're ordering, you may want to change what product you're ordering. What you want to avoid and you don't really want to do is changing that information on the PO. Because the order still requires, in this case, let's say the Gildan 5000. If I then on the PO change the Gildan 5000 to, I don't know, this nano t-shirt here, that's going to cause issues for my receiving on that order, which still expects the 5000. So what you would want to do instead actually is edit the order and change the item that you originally selected on the order, and then saving that change. So by doing it on the order, it allows that change to then trickle through to the purchase ordering step. Okay, so you definitely want to avoid making a product change to a purchase order that's linked to an order, right? So let's open up that same purchase order that we were just looking at. One thing that's kind of misconception is creating a purchase order is going to automatically send that to a supplier, which is not the case. So you can create a purchase order and that doesn't get sent anywhere by default. You can use purchase orders just as a way for you to kind of tally up those numbers, and if you want, you could still call up your supplier or go to their website and order through them. However, we do have some ways for you to send these purchase orders to your supplier directly through the Business Hub. Again, this is optional, but it is here on the right-hand side. Actions for a purchase order, you can click Send Purchase Order, and there's two options that you can choose from depending on how you have your system configured. You can either email that purchase order to your supplier, or if you have it configured, you can do a live send. So live send uses an integration that we've built with the suppliers to send the data directly from the DecoNetwork system to the supplier system. And that's going to be the fastest. It's going to be the one that in some cases gives you more information. For example, with certain suppliers, if you send that purchase order, they'll confirm that they received it. They'll let you know the status of that purchase order. They'll let you know once it's shipped, for example, with SNS Activewear. So it's a nice way to kind of gain insight and not even have to leave your Business Hub to get that type of feedback with your ordering. And as far as live ordering, you can set that up in your admin section under products. So if you go into the product section, you would want to go into supplier account details and edit a supplier to configure its live ordering information. Each supplier has its own details that you need to fill out. Some require a username and password, some require an API key, and that information you'll get from your supplier. I believe we also have some help guides on setting that up, so definitely take a look at the help system, help.deconetwork.com, if you need further assistance with that step. All right, so let's proceed with the workflow here for the purchase order. We've gone ahead and created it. I'm just going to say mark as sent. Let's say I ordered directly through my supplier's website, in this case, since I don't have live ordering set up. All right, so I've marked it as sent. They've sent me an email notification that they received my order, so I can go ahead and mark it as confirmed. Right, they confirmed that they received that order. And at this point, I'm waiting for that stock to come into my warehouse. So I could go ahead and say, continue working through my day. Let's say it's been a couple days and I actually received that box of items in my warehouse. What I would do is come back into the purchase order screen, view that same purchase order from before, and at that point I can go ahead and receive stock. Receiving stock is as simple as checking the box next to each item that you're receiving. As you receive those items, you'll notice they'll turn green and show fully received. On this screen, you can also expand those items out again to see for which orders or stock those items are being allocated. Okay, so at all times that you're either creating or receiving, you have full insight into where those items are going. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and save that change. That's going to mark our purchase order as fully received. And as far as our order is concerned, it's now in production. So it knows that that those items were ordered and received, and we can go ahead and proceed with the print production and finally the shipping. Okay, so that's kind of the main suggested purchase order workflow. There are a couple things that we didn't cover because I don't have live ordering enabled, but let me just kind of cover them briefly here. If you do have live ordering enabled, and it's the case that your PO includes a combination of items that are in stock and items that are out of stock, what you'll notice is that live ordering is actually going to be disabled for that PO. In order for live ordering to function, all of the items in a purchase order must be available from the supplier. And so what you would want to do in a case like that is, let's say the Gildan 5000 is available, but this 2800 isn't. So you would uncheck the 2800. I can no longer do it here because I've already received it, but you would uncheck that item and then save that purchase order. So you're removing the items that are out of stock, and that will allow the order to then accept live ordering. And what you could then do for those remaining items, you could go back, create a second purchase order for those items that are out of stock. You might change the warehouse that those are coming from to see if maybe they're available from a different warehouse, or if you really have to, you might order from a different supplier. When you change the supplier for a purchase order, you do lose some of that intelligence that's in the system, right? You can no longer, for example, select the color, select the size. It's going to turn into free-form fields, and the reason for that is that each supplier maintains a different SKU for even the same items, right? The Gildan 5000 may be offered from SNS, from Alpha Broder, from Sanmar, but each of those suppliers use a different SKU code for that item, and so they're not interchangeable in that way. For that reason, we turn those items into free-form items once you change the supplier for a purchase order. All right, so hopefully this gives enough insight and additional information for those people that have any questions or concerns regarding the purchase order workflow. We are just about out of time, but I do see a couple questions here or comments that I want to go ahead and cover. So Wizard Printers is commenting that it would be great to control the payment options that the customer sees when they're reviewing a quote. So let's say you send a customer a quote for approval. Wizard Printers might want the certain payment options offered, but not PayPal, to avoid PayPal's fees if the customer were to choose that option. So that's definitely one that we've heard in the past. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the ideas section. That's where you want to go to submit any feature requests. So again, we covered the help section, help.deconetwork.com. If you scroll to the bottom of that page, you'll find the feature ideas section. And this is the best place for you to submit suggestions just like that. You may actually search for that. It may already be in the system. If it is, what you can do is just add your vote of support. That moves it up towards the top of the list. And our team definitely looks at this list when considering future improvements and enhancements to the system. All right, also a question coming in about production statuses. Is there a bulk way to to edit production statuses? Yeah, I believe there is. So if we take a look at our Business Hub, let me check here. I may not have production statuses currently set up on my system. I don't, but let me see if I can just quickly add one here. So while I set up this this production status, Daniel is asking about our 8.5 update, that next major update that's coming down the line. He's asking for calendar view and for company feature. Yeah, that's coming in our 8.5 update. We don't yet have a release date, but we do currently have some users on those versions, and they're testing it out. They're giving us feedback. They're finding the issues so that we can make sure that the release is nice and stable before we push it out to all customers. We will be doing a session focusing on 8.5 once it's a little bit closer to the release date. So definitely stay tuned, watch the blog for any updates on that. All right, so let me refresh my Business Hub here. All right, so what you can do is you can use the checkboxes in the production screen to select multiple items. And here on the right-hand side, you have the actions column, and one of the actions is set production status. So I can select multiple items and then make a change to those selected items as far as the production status. Okay, so hopefully that helps out with setting your production statuses in bulk. Definitely possible here in the production tab of your Business Hub. All right, so that's going to be it for us today, guys. Thanks everyone for joining in. I appreciate all the questions and comments that you guys submitted. Make sure to watch the blog to find out when the next session is going to take place. If you're tuning in and you're not yet a DecoNetwork subscriber, I do encourage you to head over to our website, DecoNetwork.com, book a tour so you can meet with one of our DecoNetwork client services team members, and they can walk you through the system, show you what it's all about, make sure it's a nice fit for you, and show you how it can benefit your business. So thanks again, everyone, for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next one.